Hi everyone, I'm Andy. Most important part to me in the course, I feel, was part one, which was beginning communication principles. I kind of feel like maybe this is the most redundant part for a lot of us since we've probably had some previous communication courses, but based upon my work experience, I find that most strife and problems in the workplace revolve around communication breakdown. And I also think that most of that communication breakdown, from what I've seen, is due to poor listening skills. So chapter three, listening, was the most important to me. And what I want to share with you today is why something I've done in the last decade is I've focused on becoming a better listener. And I want to also share with you how those efforts have improved my life. So there's a quote in our book on page 46. It says, from a professional standpoint, critical listening skills are invaluable. However, being an effective listener can benefit your academic, social, and romantic life as well. Sounds pretty good, right? And yeah, in my experience, I really believe there's a lot of validity to that statement in the book. So for me, there was a couple life events that led to my pursuit of trying to advance my listening skills. So a little bit about my work history. When I got out of high school, I went in the military, went in the Marine Corps, and real quick after I got out of the military, I got this job as a rural carrier for the United States Postal Service. And I stayed there for 30 years. I just left. I'm retiring now, trying to do something else. But during that time that I worked at the post office, I usually almost always had a second job. In the beginning, I delivered pizzas. Later on, I started learning about taxes, investing. So I became a tax advisor or worked for some outside companies. Then eventually, I had my own private firm. But my point is, most of my work experience has always been a customer facing role. I have a lot of experience dealing with customers. And something that happened in my postal career about 10 years ago was this opportunity came up. There was a job for what they called an ad hoc instructor role at the Rural Academy. So what the Rural Academy was is new hires. Somebody gets hired as a rural carrier like I did 30 years ago. You go through some background things, some orientation, training, um, driver training, but then you go to what they call the Rural Academy, where you spend a week and you learn about the ins and outs of the job that you're actually going to be doing. So I would be instructing these new hires in this position. And I ended up getting the job. I think a lot of that had to do with my experience, had a good work record, and I liked talking about the job. So for a lot of people, I guess I was a natural fit. Around the same time that I got this job, my dad also became ill. He ended up passing away eventually. So so at the same time, I'm starting this new job. My dad just passed away, and I'm emotional. I'm starting to reflect a lot about my dad and his life, our relationship, his relationship with other people, and what made him so special. Because my dad was very beloved by many people, and I just kept thinking about things that beyond me. Why did everyone else love him? And I started to realize that one of the things that was endearing about my dad was he was a fabulous listener. He's probably the best listener I've ever known in my life. And ironically, most people wouldn't consider someone like my dad to be a great communicator. And I think the reason for that is my even though my dad was a listener, he wasn't that much of a talker. And I think we live in a society, it tells us a lot about our society. We live in a society where our perception is most of us probably equate a great communicator with a great speaker. and we don't really think about the listening part. But my dad was just didn't have a formal education. I mean, he had a high school education, but he was a blue collar worker. Did a lot of heating and air conditioning work. And I would go to work with him as a kid, go to job sites, and he had a very diverse group of customers, a lot of foreign customers, a lot of elderly people. But everyone loved seeing him and they were so comfortable with him. And I began to realize, looking back, the reason that they were so comfortable with him is he was patient and he listened to them. And you could tell that he was listening. So I could still, to this day, I can still picture my dad and me having a conversation with him, or him conversing with someone else in the family, customer, or even random strangers. Just and you could look into his eyes, and unlike a lot of people, you could tell this man actually wanted to hear what you had to say. And I think that was just an excellent trait that my dad had. So as I was beginning this ad hoc instructor position, I decided I wanted to try to incorporate some of what my dad was good at into this new position. And my decision to do that really paid off because there were some things in this instructor position that were new to me and that were a challenge. One of those was we had a super low retention rate. We're hiring these new people and we're only retaining 11% of them. And the thing about that was funny is almost everyone, as they were coming through my class, almost, I would say, over, definitely over 95% of them said this job was the best paying job that they ever had. So you have everybody coming in, and it's the best paying job they ever had, but yet you can only retain 11% of them. What's the problem? I don't know. I still don't know to this day, but I didn't want to be part of the problem. I wanted to be part of the solution. As I got into teaching the classes, another thing that surprised me was how diverse the people coming into my classroom were. And there were a lot of foreign students coming into my class, people that hadn't been in the United States that long. And English was definitely not their first language. English was a requirement of the job, and they all had some level of English, but it wasn't their first language. So for I'm sure some of their interactions with other people were people probably had little patience because I've noticed that some people don't have patience for someone that English is not their first language. I think that's unfortunate, but I did not want to be that person because these people motivated me. They came into my class and they were here. They were happy to be in the United States. They're happy to be pursuing a career with the government. They're motivated. And I think about the challenge they're facing and what they're going through. And that motivated me to try even harder to be a better listener because I wanted to help these people succeed. It really warmed my heart. A lot of people will tell you the American dream is dead. I can tell you that's not true. And those people prove it to me every day. And unfortunately, the way the system was set up, when these people graduated, went on to work. I didn't always know the result, but over 30 years, I know a lot of people over a pretty big geographical area. So I would have people get in contact with them and say, hey, you had so and so in your class. They're awesome. They're doing great. They're loving life. They're happy. And that gave me a lot of personal satisfaction. But beyond, and yeah, so being a good listener has helped me career wise, but it goes beyond my career. It's helped me in my personal life. Ironically, like I have a good marriage, been married 25 years, but day after day, you're the same person. It's easy to sometimes take things they say for granted, or not be an active listener. So I started trying to do that with my wife. To even if it's something trivial, I want to listen to what she's saying, and I could tell that she knows that now, and she appreciates that. And in turn, I think it's helped her to become a better listener. Another way that it has benefited me is been in rural travel. So over the last several years now, the wife and I we've been traveling a lot more outside the United States, and usually we're going to places where English is not the predominant language. It might be Spanish, French, Italian. And I like to get off the beaten path. So I go places that sometimes there's almost no one that speaks any English at all. And in the beginning, I thought that could be a little intimidating. I do try to learn a little bit of the language before I go, but definitely I'm not anywhere near fluent in any other language. And surprisingly, being a good listener has helped. Even though I don't speak the language, I could pick up on these verbal cues. I listen intently. People try to speak to you. And when you show them that you're listening, they usually reciprocate back because they respect that. So it has helped in that aspect a lot. And the listening skills have helped me just in any kind of interaction I have, whether it's formal or just seeing somebody at the coffee shop that I don't even know. And it also provides me a little bit of a break. I'm focused on talking to that person. I'm not, if my phone is making a beeping noise, I get a notification. I'm not stopping to look at my phone. I'm committed to have a conversation with you as another human being. So there's a lot of good ideas in chapter three if you want to look over the listening part again. I think there's a lot of concepts in there that are really good. But overall, my biggest tip, if you want to improve your listening skills, I would just say pay attention, be engaged in the conversation that you're having, and just keep trying. Keep trying. Keep it in your back of your mind as you start a conversation. I'm going to be an active listener in this conversation. So active listening has greatly improved my quality of life, and I'm extremely confident it can do the same for you. Thank you, and good luck.